Well, I am thrilled to be here today with a wonderful, outspoken advocate, and you might know her online as Candidly Tiff. So, hello, Tiff. How are you?
Hello, Miss D. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I just want us to kind of dig right in. I love talking to you because you know my passion is increasing civic engagement. And you are someone that I feel epitomizes what that means. And one of the first things that I wanted to have you share with the audience is about being a delegate to the DNC. Tell us, first of all, what a delegate is, and maybe what made you to decide to become one and that process.
So a delegate is to the DNC. So there's different. So in Maryland, we have. Let's be clear. We have we have different types of delegates. We have elected delegates that work in our assembly, and then we have DNC delegates. So I was a DNC delegate for the convention, and what that is you are representing your state as one of the delegates. I think Maryland has 72 total
Hmm.
delegates. As far as the DNC is concerned, and so I was one of the people that put my hat in the ring and said, you know what, I am going to apply. You have to apply to be a delegate. And so I went down to the office, our election office, filled out a piece of paper, and crossed my fingers, posted about it on Twitter, and hoped the right people saw it. And I was picked by the campaign. Usually it's like people within, in the party, the Democratic Party in the state, as well as within the DNC, that pick who they want to be one of the delegates. And it's done by district. So in Maryland, we have 11, I think it's 11 districts total.
Hmm.
So we have, actually it's eight, I think. Yeah, eight. I'm in District 5, and you have to get people in your district to vote for you for
Right,
this,
because you're on the ballot, right?
and I was on the ballot. So I applied, I was picked, and then I was put on the ballot with the other candidates who were running. And I actually got the most votes of everyone who was in my district.
And
So
I am
I don't,
not surprised.
no one knows me, because the funny thing is no one knows my real name, because everybody in this state knows me as Candidly Tiff. Even if when they see me, they know, they would be like, "Hey, I'm like, "It's Tiff. Please don't call me that." Like, they have no idea what my people would ask me, like, "What is your real name?" Like, I don't even know what your real name is. So I think people just liked my name on the ballot and they picked me. But everyone who was on there was 11 people on the ballot, and like everybody got picked. I mean, once you get selected, you're gonna go.
Uh-huh.
So it was fun. It was fun to see how that process works, because I never knew how it worked in 2020 or even before that. So it was nice to be able to participate in it, and then of course we went to DNC,
Right?
which was an experience in itself, because I had no
Yes.
idea what to expect. I mean, I've seen it on TV multiple times. We didn't have one in 2020. It was all virtual. The last one I saw was in 2016, and it was a mess. I mean, it was messy, right?
Yes.
It was very messy. So I had no idea what to really expect going into it, but I knew a lot of the people, because I had helped with Angela Alsabrook's campaign, and we were all kind of involved in helping with her campaign, most of the people that were selected. But I did meet a lot of new people, and so it was a lot of fun. Just the experience of one, just traveling to Chicago and then finally getting there. I got there Sunday. We had an event that night, just kind of Maryland folks, and that was fun. And then the next morning, there was a lot of controversy about like the protesters and what was going to happen with that.
Right.
And so I ended up, I was kind of keeping people like up to date about what was happening in Chicago, because there was a lot of misinformation that was going around about like where we were staying and where a lot of the delegates were staying was pretty much outside. It was in the city, but it was like a little bit away from the downtown area. So where we were staying, there was so much security. I mean, it was insane. I woke up at that morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, went downstairs. I couldn't sleep because, of course, the time changed. I couldn't sleep. I was like, I'm going to find Dunkin' Donuts, because I'm a New York girl and I need my Dunkin'. So I went and I Went to search for Dunkin' Donuts. When I got downstairs, I mean, there was armed security in the hotel. There was barricades outside. People, I mean, it was very much secure.
Hmm.
But even so, I walked through the streets. I'm like, okay, let's see what these people are talking about. They're claiming that there's migrants, there's all kinds of stuff, bad things happening in Chicago, and I never saw any of that. Like,
Crime-ridden
yeah,
Chicago.
all these things, the myths that they have about Chicago, but I actually felt super safe in Chicago. It's a beautiful city, and so I really enjoyed being there. And then of course that night was the first night of the DNC, and oh boy, that was a crazy day because there was a delay to get into the DNC because there was protesters and they stopped the buses. There's certain buses that you have to get on from your hotel. I was in the hotel with New York, Connecticut. I think it was the Dems Abroad and a few others. So we had a lot of people in our hotel. I mean, there was thousands of delegates in that hotel.
I can
And
imagine. I would
and
have loved to have been there because
yeah.
the energy, I'm sure, even
Oh
with
yeah.
all the protests and everything, I can imagine that energy. I was so envious, but I really appreciated how you were bringing that information to us because I really like so many other people were concerned, of course, about, violence and those types of things, happening with the protest. And I felt really good when I would see you post the videos. It was just really beautiful.
Yeah, and you know what? It was great because you made connections with people that you normally wouldn't make connections with. So one of the ladies who is from Maryland. She's I'm in Anne Arundel County. She's in Howard County. She's like the vice president of the Howard County Dems. I've seen this woman so many times. She's an elder. We became besties that first day because we were on the bus together, and
Oh,
she was like, and I, again, we had to walk a really far distance because they stopped the buses. We couldn't get into the arena. We had to walk really far. So she kind of, and I was like, listen, Miss May, I got you. And so
aw.
we ended up having to walk a really far distance. We finally got in, I don't know, like an hour and a half after it, like truly, I mean, it was empty at first. If you were watching on TV, it was pretty empty. And then people started finally getting in. It was crazy. And when I walked in, I was overwhelmed because there was so many people. People were talking on the stage. Everyone is like trying to move around. Like I had not expected that, people moving around so much while people were talking and trying to get to their seats. I mean, we were like trying to squeeze our way into little tiny spots to get through. You're seeing people that you kind of didn't expect to see, like people you see on TV, right?
Hmm.
So I'm seeing all the New York delegates, and I'm like, and most of them are Congress people, right? So
Right?
you're seeing people as you're passing by, seeing friends as I'm passing by. Like everyone's political. I mean, this is like a whole political like event where you just see all political people, and it's
Exactly.
fun.
All the civically engaged people all
Yeah,
gathered
Roland
together.
Martin. I mean, you're seeing all these people, but it was so chaotic that first day. I mean, it was insane. The second day was better. The second day was awesome because that was the day of the roll call. And so everyone made sure they got there super early, and they did. And we found like a bar. We figured our way out through the arena, and then we had no idea what to expect with the roll call, right? We just knew they were like, make sure you're in your seat by a certain time because they're going to do Maryland. So we were trying to navigate through that. But then when we were walking back to our seat is when, because we went to the bar, of course, we walked
Of
back to our
course.
seat. I saw like Gabby Gifford. She just smiled at me and she waved. I saw a bunch of delegates from, like I said, New York, because they were on our side. Who else did I see? I saw a bunch of people that I was like, oh, this is awesome. But then Little John came out, and everybody was like, what the hell? Like no one, when they got to Georgia, like no one was expecting that, right? Because I missed California because we were in the bar, but I could
Hmm.
see it on TV, and I was like, all right, whatever. But then when Little John came out, oh my goodness, everybody was like, "Oh, this is a party." Like, this is a real legit party, and it felt good. Like, it felt really good in the moment. And even I was at an event earlier this, like last week, Tuesday. I went to the governor's, like, he had a Black History event, and me and all the people that were delegates, we're like, we really didn't cherish that time because it was so chaotic, and we were trying to be in the moment. But looking back, there was so much happening, and we really didn't cherish all the moments that we spent together, because
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. Like, there was a lot happening. Kamala coming out the first day, no one expected that. Biden had gave the longest speech ever, and people people didn't know what to do. We had no idea how to get back home that night because there was no instructions on, like, buses, like where to go. We ended up taking an Uber back. Like, it was so chaotic the first day, but everything calmed down. They fixed the route. The second day was perfection, and I think that was the night that I think Obama spoke.
Hmm.
It might be. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember the
Yeah.
order, but it was a really good experience. And then, of course, leading up to Kamala on the last day, it was as a person who's in the K Hive, or was in the K Hive, whatever it is now.
Right.
It was kind of a full circle moment to see
Hmm.
her there and giving the speech. And of course, I'm such a baby. I was crying. I have pictures of me with, like, just tears going down my eyes. But I think in that moment, everything felt good, right? It felt like we were on the
Had
right path,
momentum and the
and
energy.
everything was. I mean, we left there. Everybody left there motivated, especially, even Michelle and Oprah and all these different people that had spoken. It felt like, okay, we were on the right track,
Hmm.
and of course, here we are.
Exactly. And of course, this is going to, air during Women's History Month. And so it's another reason why I really wanted, to talk to you because, yeah, we could have had an amazing woman in the White House. We're going to keep chopping and, punching at that ceiling. We'll get there eventually. But again, like I said, I could feel I was able to really kind of enjoy it. What as they say, vicariously through you and others. And I am someone who have watched these political events most of my adult life and even younger. So even though I wasn't there. People like you and some of the other folks that I know in social media helped to bring it closer to us, and it also just kind of helped to reinforce something which is my goal with advocacy arena is just seeing everyday people take charge and get involved in the civic process. So I want to transition a little bit to something else. Yes, that delegate experience, I'm sure, was just like unforgettable, something that you will never forget. But something that even before that you did and that you still continue to do is you're a content creator. And this DNC convention, unlike many others, also had like a special place and for content creators. They
Yep.
had prominence there that they had never had before. I hope to see more of that going forward. And you, if you hadn't been chosen as a delegate, I'm sure you
Oh,
probably
yeah.
would have made it as a content
Oh, I
creator.
am sure I would have been there as a content creator, but I enjoyed. You know what? It was funny because I enjoyed seeing the other content creators. Like, they were actually working really, really hard. Like,
Mm.
I wasn't working as hard as
You
them.
were
Like,
enjoying yourself.
I was trying to enjoy the moment. I had floor seats. They didn't really have, to be honest, like, I don't know if people know this, they didn't have, like, real seats on the floor. So the seats on the floor for the delegates, they had a space that they had created for but only certain content creators could go down at a certain time. And so it was nice walking. The first, like I said, the first day was chaotic, but the second day, as I was there, I was watching Kenny, and which is Too Raw Too Real, and I was watching Brian and other content
Mentally
creators.
divine,
Yeah,
Brian.
I was
Hmm.
watching them interview people, and talk to people. And I like there where they were interviewing was right outside of our gate that we were going into for the
Mhm.
Maryland delegation. So I was witnessing them do things that hadn't been done before. And it was beautiful to see. It was beautiful to see, them in their element, taking videos, talking to people, and just having those conversations. That's not something that I enjoy doing.
I understand, and I think we all have our skill sets and the things that, we really kind of feel comfortable doing. But one of the things I know as a content creator that you do and you do very well, and I of course love, is kind of breaking down simple civics to people.
Yes, ma'am.
Eh,
I mean, I was a social studies major, right? And I never used it. I never used it in real life because I went into the healthcare field. So it's like, okay, well, what is it that people are lacking, right? And I think to your point, people are not getting, they may have learned it 10, 20 years ago, but a lot of people have forgotten what the three branches of government are or how, I mean, you would think that they wouldn't, but a lot of people have. They are busy in their lives and they're not thinking about civics or what does it take to to get a judge on the bench. Like, they're not thinking about these things. These are things that I think about, right? And you think about, but it's not things that the average person is thinking about. And so how do you bring that to the table and have people understand how these things work? You got to talk to them in the language that they understand, right? Because that's the easiest way. And so I think that's what I've tried to do in terms of civic engagement, is just trying to, take a situation and explain, especially judges. Oh my gosh, these judges are the ones that are going to save us at this point. They're our only saving grace to me. And we're starting to see, okay, every time I see a case, I look up the judge. I'm like, oh, that's a Biden judge. I know that judge, so there's, and I mean, I tracked every single Biden judge from start to finish, which was 235.
wow. And I
Like, I had,
remember you doing that, like, and I appreciated that, that information, because it's one of those things that, like, my daughter is someone who oftentimes doesn't vote in midterm, and she knows it drives me crazy. But part of the reason is because there tend to be a lot of local elections, judges, and that kind of stuff, and they're not as well known. And when people are busy living their everyday life, they don't have time. Not all of them are, civic geeks like us. They don't have time to dig into this stuff. And so what you do as a content creator and providing kind of that basic understanding and that research, I think, is invaluable. And I hope that you continue to do it, because it gives me great things to be able to use when I'm having my weekly news and political chat, good trouble chat every Monday. And I really appreciate the times that you have come in and shared with us, because I think we're very simpatico in that
yeah.
respect. Like, people need to understand. Um, and with that being said, I'm going to, kind of start to, wrap us up here. But I wanted you to just speak from your heart to people, because we're at a moment in our country where it's really important that people are engaged and understand what's going on. And I know that you have people in your life and people that you encounter. What would you say would be some things that you would tell them to help bring them into that civic engagement?
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, I think talking to people in the language that they understand is really important, right? So I know you have to kind of know your audience too. Who is watching your content, or who are you talking to? Because sometimes I'm talking to people that are political, and sometimes I'm talking to people like my husband who is not political at all, and he's asking me questions about politics, and I get frustrated. I'm not gonna lie, I do get a little frustrated, trying to explain to him, and he's getting frustrated too. Like, why can't we pass a bill, or why is this man even in office, right? Trying to explain these concepts to him. But I think it's worthwhile to have those conversations. And even if you're talking to someone that is apathetic or didn't even vote, maybe not judge, maybe you can judge in your mind, but not necessarily judge to them and say, because you're going to turn them off altogether. You can say,
Right.
well, you didn't vote in 2020 and or 2020 24, this is all your fault, right? I mean, you're not going to get anywhere further with them, because honestly, while people may have not, especially in blue states, right?
Hmm.
I live in a blue state, and a lot of people really and truly said, you know what, she's gonna win in Maryland, she's gonna win in New York, it doesn't matter if I vote. And in a way, they had a point, because she was going to win. But when you look at the numbers, at the end of the day, she lost. She lost the electoral. She lost the electoral college, of course, but she also lost the popular vote. And losing the popular vote is a translation of people just sitting home because they didn't think their vote mattered. How do we get people to believe and know that their vote matters? And I think when you're in a blue state, it's really hard to convince people of that. But we have to do a better job of explaining it's not just the presidency, right? Because we also had a senator on our ballot. We also had judges on our ballot. And your vote, you may think your vote doesn't count for the presidency, but it damn sure counted for all those other ballot measures that you missed. And
Absolutely.
that could have changed someone's, the way someone won or lost. And so we have elections coming up in 2026 here, governor, the Congress, all of our local elections are in 20. So maybe the person didn't vote in 2024, but we need them to vote in 2026.
Absolutely. And
So
and I so agree with you. Like, you have to meet people where they are and speak in a language that they can understand. And that's part of the reason why I really do appreciate you, content creators, because I feel like you kind of help to take some of the jargon, that, kind of turns people off or goes over their head, into language that they can understand and make it resonate more with them. So it's very important work. I hope you continue to do
thank
it.
you.
And I know that you will. And I know that it can be frustrating at times because you are passionate about it, but I really wanted to highlight what you do, like the significance, first of all, of, how we engage in our community, like, not just that political aspect, because, I've said this before many times, all things actually end up going back to politics.
And local, all things, was it all politics is local? Yes, it is.
Absolutely. And so, I get that people don't want to talk about politics, and they may not feel as informed about it, but I do think that it really is important for, people like us to help people to understand why it matters. And I also appreciate too that a lot of your focus, since I've known you, has been around supporting women, especially Black women. So, I'm going to give you some final words and thoughts, on that, as this will be airing in Women's History Month.
Yeah,
What
well,
motivates you to do that?
I again, as much as people have been criticizing diversity, right? It is important. Representation does matter. Having a Black woman represent us in the Senate when we live in a state that is majority minority matters. It matters that she is there. We saw her with RFK and pointing out, which is Angela Also Brooks, our senator, pointing out to him about these crazy myths that he has. And in that moment, you saw the value of having a Black woman there to tell him directly, I'm not voting for you because you don't even know what you're talking about. And I think, and it's not only her. There is a woman also who was elected. We just to be clear, we had no women in our delegation for Congress. None. We now have three,
Yay.
right? So we have Sarah Elthred that was elected. We also have April Delaney, who is now also one of our Congress people. These things matter. Having no women at the table should be unacceptable at this point. So I am
Especially
happy.
when they're trying to legislate things like reproductive health.
Right, exactly. And yeah, and it's not only just that, it's just, even with Angela, like I respect her so much because she is bringing something. She has aging parents. Is one of the things she talked about on the campaign trail. I have aging parents. She's on the aging committee. You need people with real life experience to legislate. We have way too many people in Congress that are just out of touch with reality. So it is nice to have people there that actually understand, empathize, and get the realities of what's happening around this country. And yeah, you definitely need more women. More women. And I love my men, but we need more women. Period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am with you on that. And again, like I said, thank you for taking a little time out of your day to, just hang out, chat with me about these important issues and how, it's important for all of us to be involved in our community and certainly being civically engaged and politically engaged. These things all matter because, as you said, to have people represent us that understand the people that they're representing, their needs and their concern. So I just want to applaud you for the work that you do and encourage you to just keep it up, keep being great.
Thank
Candidly
you.
Tiff. Thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Connections and Conversations. This is one of many wonderful interviews that we bring to you to help connect you to a larger community of advocates and changemakers across the country. You'll get a glimpse into the various ways people are making an impact in their communities. My hope is that it will inspire you to get engaged in some small way as well. We can't all do everything, but at this moment in history, we can all do something. What are you doing? One of the things you can do is to continue to listen, subscribe, and share this Advocacy Arena podcast. You can also join and support the growing grassroots Advocacy Arena community in other ways. Join our weekly live chats hosted on Spoutable every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to our Substack to get great articles on important topics and exclusive access to extended interview conversations. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We've got some exciting programming lined up. And keep listening to our regular podcast episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, subscribe and give us that all-important 5-star review.